In the last video, Lies I Tell My Students, I substituted the question segment that typically concludes each video with footage of my students saying howdy. And I might add that none of that was prompted. I just walked around with a video camera. Now, while all that was pretty entertaining, several of you expressed that you did miss the question segment. So for this video, I will strictly be answering questions. And now, with the help of some props and your imagination, I will answer me some questions. Thank you so much for joining us. Alright, well, let's get started. First question. Warhammer 820 from the YouTube asks, in reference to the last video, lies I tell my students, do you really tell your students these things? Yes, I have said all those things at some point to some of my students, and most of those things to most of them. So your students really all say howdy. Oh, absolutely. It's custom for Koreans to greet each other, especially their elders, whenever they cross paths or make eye contact. So with me, they do that, but instead of saying 안녕하세요, they say howdy. I get anywhere from 1 to 10, 100 howdies per day. Do you have any other catchphrases in your class? Yeah, actually. Korean students are always grabbing at each other and touching each other's hands and smacking each other in the face in class. And it's weird and hurtful and distracting, so I often shout, "No touching!" All right, next question. Mackenzie from Cali asks, how do you manage your wardrobe selection with only 2 pairs of slacks? Well, let me tell you, it was not easy at first, but I eventually developed a pants schedule that I tape to my closet door, where I've planned out what pants I will wear so that I don't wear the same pants to consecutive classes, since I only wear or only see each class once every week. Sounds like you're really making the most out of your wardrobe. Well, yeah, I like to be efficient with my pants. Who doesn't? Speaking of pants, and this question is from me, why aren't you wearing any? Why aren't you wearing pants? I rarely bother to put on pants for these videos. Lazy. Moving on. AvidFan93 asked you to fill out a pretty general questionnaire. You had some normal anticipated responses. What's your name, where are you from, that sort of thing. But you also had some pretty interesting responses as well. Here, for what is your favorite color, you put, it's complicated. Yeah, that's right. Could you expound on that, please? Well, I mean, I like the colors that red, green, eye deficient people can't see, because when I can see them and they can't, then I feel special, like I'm really good at something. Interesting, because where AvidFan93 asked, what is something you're good at, you put light switches. Yeah, that's right. You know, you're not being very cooperative here. Well, you're asking all these stupid questions, and you're giving ridiculous answers. They're not ridiculous. They're honest and spontaneous and virtuous. Remind me to never let you do drugs. You're not the boss of me. Childish. I always thought we'd be really good friends. Apparently not. Zach, it's all an act. I personally think we're incredibly entertaining. Love me, buddy. Right back at me. Alright, anyways, back on track. Many people have extra classes or after classes at the end of the day. What do you teach your students during this time? Well, when I'm not busy lying to them, I teach them Disc Ultimate or Ultimate Frisbee. Oh, because of the chopstick, forearm strength, and dexterity skill set transfer? No, because it's fun. Oh, okay. What crazy foods have you eaten? Let me see here. Raw beef, minced chicken feet, uncooked also. Live octopus legs chopped up and squirming around in my mouth and nostrils. Acorn jello, eel, every vegetable imaginable in a fermented state. Every part of a fish, alcohol soaked in a fish's bile-filled gallbladder, octopus ink, squid fried rice, dozen other things I didn't question. Dog, rice. Ever throw up? Yeah, one time I popped a whole baby octopus head in my mouth, but it was too rubbery in my teeth, couldn't tear through the skin. And then finally, after a couple solid minutes of chewing, some brain just kind of eked out the eye, causing me to throw up just a little bit in my mouth. At which point I realized I just needed to swallow it all whole right then and there. But the thought of that was a little bit too much for me to handle. So I kind of threw up at a window, just hoping it would magically open or something. It didn't. Gross. Here's a good question. Have you done anything as a teacher that you regret? Well, one time a 16-year-old student was picking on one of his what's the PC word for? What makes you think I obsess over political correctness? Do I look Canadian to you or something? I'm just trying not to offend anyone. I don't know. Intellectually disabled, differently abled, mentally challenged, disadvantaged, crippled, repressed. Goodness, I wasn't asking you to brainstorm here. Well, it's a euphemism treadmill. Anyways, this kid was trying to pick a fight with, we'll call him Noah, since that's his name. And I repeatedly told him to stop. But then when he pushed him, all while seated, mind you, I got angry and took the marker in my hand, and I just threw it at the bully's face. Did it hit him? Yeah, nailed him in the forehead. Then I went over to him and said, "You want to fight? You fight me." Fortunately, it did not escalate, but it's never a good idea to offer to fight a student. Fact. People from Texas asks, will you be renewing your contract in Korea and staying another year, or will you return to Texas in August? Good question. No, as much as I really do love Korea, I will be returning to Texas, where I accepted a full-time teaching gig at a middle school in the North Dallas area. Real live teacher, huh? Nice. What has been your favorite thing about your experience teaching abroad? Definitely the new cultural experiences. Texas is small, and Korea is even smaller, but it was great getting outside of my comfort zone and experiencing life in a different time zone. And what has been your least favorite? Oh, the bitter cold in winter. I even wrote myself a note in February that said, "Dear future self, don't renew. It's too cold." All right. Dylan Stone from back home wants to know, if you got married and had a kid, and your best couple friends had a kid at the same time, would you consider swapping babies? Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for your question. I'm sure you did.